The topic of today is three functions of security analysis: descriptive, selective, and critical. Descriptive analysis, it consists of marshalling the importance of facts relating to an issue and presenting them in a coherent, readily intelligible manner. So this is inadequately performed for the entire range of marketable corporate securities by various manuals. The Standard Statistics and Fitch Services and others. A more penetrating type of description seeks to reveal a strong and weak points in a position of an issue, compare its exhibit with the other's similar character, and appraise the factors which are likely to influence its future performance. Analysis of this kind is applicable to almost every corporate issue. It may be regarded as an adjunct not only to investment but also to intelligent speculation, in that it provides an organized factual basis for the application of judgment. Second function is the selective function. Security analysis goes further and expresses specific judgment of its own. It seeks to determine whether a given issue should be bought, sold, or retained or exchanged for some other. What type of securities or situations lend themselves best to this more positive activity of the analyst, and to what handicaps or limitations it is subject to. It may be well to start with a group of examples of analytical judgments which could serve as a basis for more general inquiry. Analytical judgment, that means a public was offered a large issue of 6% non-cumulative preferred stock of St. Louis San Francisco Railway Company, priced at 100. The record showed that in no year in the company's history had earned been equivalent to as much as 1.5 times the fixed charges and preferred dividends combined. So the application of well-established standards of selection to the fact in this case would have been led to rejection of issue as sufficiently protected. Secondly, we have to understand intrinsic value and price. It will be better to understand the work of security analysts is not without a concrete result of considerable practical value, that it is applicable to a wide variety of situations. All these instances, he appears to be concerned with the intrinsic value of security, and more particularly with the discovery of discrepancies between the intrinsic value and market price. We must recognize, however, the intrinsic value is an elusive concept. So, general term to understand is that value which is justified by the fact, that is, assets, earnings, dividends, a definite prospects as distinct, and say, for example, market quotations established by artificial manipulation or distorted by psychological excesses. It's a great mistake to imagine that the intrinsic value is a definite and the determinable as it is in market price. So sometimes Intrinsic value was thought to be about the same thing as book value. It was equal to the net assets of the business fairly priced. In view of intrinsic value, it was quite indefinite, but it proved almost worthless as a practical matter because neither the average earnings nor the average market price evinced any tendency to be governed by the book value. Secondly, we have to understand intrinsic value and earning power. The idea was superseded by a new view. Intrinsic value of a business was determined by the earning power. Earning power must imply a fairly confident expectation of a certain future results. It's not sufficient to know what the past earnings have averaged, or even they disclose a definite line of growth or decline. So there must be a plausible ground for believing that this average or this trend is a dependable guide to the future. Experience has shown only too forcibly that in many instances this is a far from true. That means the concept of earning power expressed as a definite figure, derived concept of intrinsic value as something equally definite, ascertainable, cannot be safely accepted as a general premise of security analysis. And role of work of the analyst and intrinsic value. Let us try to formulate a statement. The role of intrinsic value in the work of analyst. It will reconcile rather conflicting implications of our examples. The essential point is that security analysis does not say or determine exactly what is the intrinsic value of a given security. It needs only to establish either that value is adequate or to protect a bond or to justify a stock purchase, or that the value is considerably higher or lower than the market price. So for such purpose, an indefinite and appropriate measure of the intrinsic value may be sufficient. To use a homely simile, it is quite possible to decide by inspection that a woman is old enough to vote without knowing her age, that a man is heavier than he should be without knowing his exact weight. Like this, to ascertain intrinsic value become a very tough to evaluate the future securities. Now, there are certain principal obstacles to get a success of the analyst. Sometimes inadequate data or incorrect data. So, logically, it is right, but work out badly in practice. Main obstacle is the inadequacy or incorrectness of the data and uncertainties of the future and irrational behavior of the market. A deliberate falsification of the idea is rare. So most of the misrepresentation flows from the accounting artificial, which it is the function of capable analysts to detect. So concealment is a more common than misstatement. An extent of concealment has been greatly reduced as a result of regulations in the country. Now, a critical analysis is the last and third function. The principles of investment of finance and methods of corporation finance fall necessarily within the province of security analysis. So the judgments are reached by applying standards to facts. So the analyst is concerned with the soundness and practicability of the standards of selection. So interested to see that the securities, especially bonds and preferred stocks, be issued with adequate protective provisions. More important still, that proper methods of enforcement of these covenants be a part of acceptable financial practice. As a matter of great moment to the analyst, the fact be fairly presented, and this means he must be highly critical in accounting methods. Finally, he must concern himself with all the corporate policies affecting security owner, for the value of issue which he analyzes may be largely dependent upon the acts of management. So this includes question of capitalization setup, of dividend and expansion policies, managerial compensation, even continuing or liquidating an unprofitable business. So these matters are very important, but varied securities analysis may be competent to express critical judgments and to the avoidance of mistakes, to the correction of abuses, and to the better protection of those owning the bonds and stocks.